Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage the chairman of the organizing committee, Mr. S. Saravanan Kumar, to deliver the welcome address. Mr. Saravanan is a partner of the law firm Lee, Hishamuddin, Allen and Gladhill.
Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan dan Khusus, Tuanku Mukris, Ibni Tuanku Munawir, Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampun Besar Negeri Sembilan dan Khusus, Tunku Aisyah Rohaini, binti almarhum Tunku Besar Mahmud. Sembah patik, mohon diampun Tuanku. Patik menunjung kasih di atas perkenan Duli Yang Maha Mulia Baginda berdua kerana sudi mencemar duli berangkat menghadiri dan menyempurnakan perasmian persidangan Federalism in Malaysia pada pagi yang mulia ini. Sesungguhnya keberangkatan duli tuanku ke persidangan ini menunjukkan sokongan. Sesungguhnya patik dan jawatankuasa penganjur berasa amat gembira dan terima kasih di atas keberangkatan duli tuanku ke persidangan ini, di mana keberangkatan baginda berdua turut sama memeriahkan lagi suasana persidangan ini yang berjudul pada tahun ini Federalism in Malaysia, Redefining the Federal State Relationship in Malaysia. Patik dengan penuh takzim mohon limpah perkenan duli tuanku untuk patik berucap kepada sidang hadirin di dalam bahasa Inggeris tuanku. Ampun tuanku. Yang amat mulia Tunku Besar Seri Menanti, Yang amat berhormat Menteri Besar Negeri Sembilan dan Khusus, Yang amat arif the Chief Justice of Malaysia, Yang berhormat Deputy Minister of Finance, Yang berhormat Deputy President of the Senate, Yang arif Judges of the Court of Appeal and the High Court, Yang amat mulia Tunku Zain Al-Abidin Ibni Tuanku Mukris, Yang berhormat State Executive Councillors of Negeri Sembilan, Yang berhormat Members of Dewan Negara, Dewan Rakyat and Dewan Undangan Negeri. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it is a great privilege today to have Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan gracing our event as our royal patron and also to officiate the conference this morning. I pray that God will continue to bless Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan and Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampun Besar Negeri Sembilan and their children, Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Besar Seri Menanti and Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Zain Al-Abidin with good health and long life. May God bless our beloved state of Negeri Sembilan with harmony and progress, with the able guidance and leadership of Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan dan Khusus. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you to the inaugural Federalism in Malaysia conference. The inspiration to organize this conference came none other than from Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku's royal address at the book launch of Hishamuddin Yunus celebrating judicial independence. Tuanku had hoped that the new federal government will work with the state governments to seriously consider issues of fiscal decentralization and policy autonomy in the states, drawing from the best practices of other democratic federations around the world. Tuanku's call at that book launch was well received by the general public, prompting further interest in this topic. This conference, ladies and gentlemen, does not only feature prominent social thinkers and personalities as moderators, speakers and panelists, but also individuals from a diverse background, namely the judiciary, academia, legal practice, politicians, civil society leaders, from the civil service and also from the civil sector. This two-day conference will have 6 specially designed sessions in the next 2 days. Session 1 and 2 will respectively discuss the concept of federalism from 2 aspects. One at the national level and the second from the historical context of Negeri Sembilan. Session 3 at the end of the day today aims to highlight the current governance issues that we face as a result of an overly strong central government with Session 4 tomorrow, probing on matters pertaining to conflict management and interstate relations. Session 5 will examine the future of federalism in Malaysia by discussing steps that our political leaders should consider, with Section 6 providing insights from the experience of federalism from other jurisdictions. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference was made possible thanks to the generous support of our sponsors, University Science Islam Malaysia, Nilai Resources Group, and my partners from the law firm Lee Shamuddin, Allen and Redhill. This event would not have been a reality without the many distinguished panel members who have taken their time off from their busy commitment to share their views and insights. I would like to thank them for being a big part of this conference this morning. And I must also record my sincere appreciation to the panel members, because instead of the usual Twitter gifts that we give to panel members, speakers, they have all kindly agreed that in lieu of a gift, that a cash contribution will be made to the National Kidney Foundation, which is presently working with Rotary Club of Nilai Central to establish a non-profit dialysis center in Seremban. My sincere appreciation to my colleagues from Lee Shamuddin, Allen and Gleadhill, who were co-opted to serve on the organizing committee, especially Puan Nur Amira Azhar, the organizing secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I must record my sincere appreciation to Yang Mat Mulia Tunku Besar Sri Menanti for leading the organization of this conference. Tunku Besar is the man behind this conference where, despite his demanding schedule, Tunku Besar always found time to advise the organizing committee on the various aspects of this conference, including the technical aspects. It is indeed a privilege and pleasure to be working with Tunku Besar, where our next enterprise is to produce the proceedings of this conference in a journal as suggested by Tunku Besar. This is an excellent idea by Tunku Besar to preserve the discourse at this conference for posterity and also for the purposes of further research. I'm most humbled by Tunku Besar's trust in me to undertake this inspiring initiative. We are indeed privileged today that we find support for this cause, none other from Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku himself, who is a royal patron of this conference. It is Tuanku's call for decentralization and good governance that initiated this conference and inspired us to be gathered here today. I had the privilege of interacting with Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku in the course of organizing this conference, where, I must say, Tuanku, I admire Tuanku's passion and determination on subjects which are close to Tuanku's heart, including decentralization of power within the spirit of the Federal Constitution. I must also make a very special mention of Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampuan Besar, Negeri Sembilan Darul Khusus, where Tunku Ampuan has very kindly allowed us to graciously host the event at this university. Ladies and gentlemen, Tunku Ampuan Besar is the Chancellor of the university. USIM is indeed very fortunate for having Tunku Ampuan Besar as his Chancellor, where the university is today growing from strength to strength in becoming one of the leading new universities in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, I must also record my appreciation to Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku and Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampuan Besar, because they too have graciously allowed the organizing committee to make a contribution towards the setting up of a dialysis center in Seremban instead of the customary gift presentation. Thank you, Tuanku. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my fervent hope that you will find this two-day conference educational and interesting. Topics of constitutional law is generally dry, but I'm sure the speakers who are from very prominent and interesting background will make your 2 days worthwhile, and I hope you will stay and enjoy the session for 2 days. We look forward to your continued support and new ideas to further enhance the stature of this conference, which we hope will be an annual event in years to come, to continue the momentum for decentralization in Malaysia, to achieve good governance at all levels of power. Thank you. Ampun Tuanku.
We request Mr. Saravana to invite and accompany Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Besar Sri Menanti Tunku Ali Ridauddin Ibni Tuanku Mukhris to the stage for Yang Amat Mulia's special address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Menghadap Sri Paduka Ayahanda, Duli Yang Maha Mulia, Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan Darul Khusus, Tuanku Muhriz Ibni Almarhum Tuanku Munawir. Menghadap Sri Paduka Bonda, Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampuan Besar Negeri Sembilan, Tuanku Aisyah Rahani binti Almarhum Tunku Besar Mahmud. Paduka anak anda merafak sembah menjunjung kasih kepada Sri Paduka Ayahanda dan Sri Paduka Bonda kerana sudi mencemaduli ke persidangan Federalisme yang bermula pada pagi ini. Sesungguhnya, keberangkatan Sri Paduka Ayahanda dan Sri Paduka Bonda sudah tentu menambah seri dan gemilang persidangan ini. Dengan perkenan Sri Paduka Ayahanda dan Sri Paduka Bonda, Paduka anak anda akan meneruskan ucapan kepada hadirin sekalian dengan berbahasa Inggeris. Menjunjung kasih Tuanku. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. I'm quite overwhelmed at the positive response to this conference, as demonstrated by the breadth, depth and seniority of the audience today, including the Menteri Besar, Chief Justice, Tun Ahmad Saji, federal ministers, members of the Senate and Exco and Aduns of Negeri Sembilan. And of course, all the students, faculty, and everybody from USIM as well. Thank you very much. As Pro-Chancellor here, I would like to welcome you to University Science Islam Malaysia, and I'm glad we are hosting this conference. Thank you to the Vice-Chancellor for allowing us to do that, as I have no doubt that the intellectual discourse over the next 2 days will further thinking on this important topic. All being well, this will just be the first of many conferences to come. We were talking about that just now, so let's see if Saravana is ready to organize more lectures on this in the coming years. The idea of this conference, as mentioned by Saravana, emerged from a discussion that started at a book launch back in last November, and that is how we got here today. It is no coincidence, therefore, that this event is happening under Tuanku's patronage, and it is no coincidence that we are in Negeri Sembilan. Beyond being obviously a member state of the Federation of Malaysia and the birthplace of the first man chosen to lead that federation by his peers, my late great-grandfather, the first Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Tuanku Abdul Rahman Ibni Almarhum Tuanku Muhammad. Negeri Sembilan is itself a federation, formed of various luwak that came together over centuries. In the 18th century, in 1773 or earlier, the chiefs of these luwak invited my father's predecessor, Raja Malewa, to come to rule the state from Pagaruyung in Sumatra. To this day, the luwak continue to practice their systems of governance, and as Saravana mentioned earlier, the Negeri Sembilan experience is one of the topics for discussion later, and it will be presented by my brother, Tunku Zain. Ladies and gentlemen, many people have written about the topic we are addressing these 2 days. In Federalism Without Decentralization, Power Consolidation in Malaysia, Dr. Kai Ostwald of the University of British Columbia sees Malaysia in somewhat of a conundrum. For whilst the federal system and institutional features point to a highly decentralized structure, the reality points to Malaysia being a state where power is actually very concentrated. He contends that this centralization happened over time, resulting in a system that is perhaps more consolidated than originally envisioned at the outset of independence. The concerns around this are not new, And in recent times, many academics and civil society leaders have articulated their thoughts on decentralization in various areas ranging from education, transport, and health services. One of the common themes in their call is based very simply on efficiency and effectiveness. A more decentralized government, especially in respect of local functions, would result in better delivery of services to the rakyat. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenge is also an economic one. Under the tenets of the 10th schedule of the Federal Constitution, which provides for grants and sources of revenue assigned to states, states receive a capitation grant per year according to a fixed schedule, based on a certain quantum per capita, with different rates based on the total population. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, but for those who are less acquainted, for each state, these are for the first 100,000 persons at a rate of 72 ringgit per person. For the next 500,000 persons at the rate of 10 ringgit 20 cents per person. For the next 500,000 at the rate of 10 ringgit 80 cents per person, and for the remainder at a rate of 11 ringgit 40 cents per person. The allocation is to be based on the annual population projections of the state as determined by the federal government and calculated as of the last population census. As an example, based on the Department of Statistics 2018 data, Negeri Sembilan has an estimated population of 1,113,000. This would entitle the state to approximately 17.85 million ringgit a capita, or about, a year in total, or about 16 ringgit per capita, which is enough for lunch at KLCC food court, if you're lucky, parking for 4 hours, or if you prefer, a return trip on the highway toll from Sungai Besi to Senawang. The question, therefore, is whether these grants, even coupled with state road grants and other state revenues, which could vary significantly by state, would be sufficient to administer each state. Again, going back to Oswald, he cited a 2010 publication, and he makes reference to the whole budget of industrialized Penang at the time being half the budget of what the federally funded University of Science Malaysia had in the same year. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be promoting universities and we shouldn't be providing them with funding, but that's quite a significant anomaly, I think. As such, these situations must be better understood, explored, and addressed. The dynamics of federalism should accommodate and respond to the aspirations, nay, the obligations of the states, whilst preserving democratic ideals and national unity. There should be a mechanism to ensure that the states have appropriate financial resources and the independence to fulfill their duties, especially in relation to the matters under the state list, as prescribed under the Federal Constitution. Perhaps this could happen through a reassessment of the allocation of finances to enable the states to better self-manage matters. I believe this would be holding true to the vision of our founding fathers when they agreed to form this federation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just one such discussion point. It is envisaged that this conference will allow us to discuss and debate this and many other ideas, and hopefully catalyze further discourses on federalism in our society, not just amongst those of us present here today, but throughout the different states and the rest of the country. We should also ensure that we apply a balanced view, for there are times when centralized decision-making is absolutely critical, and finding harmony and equity between consolidation and decentralization, whilst holding true to the spirit of the federal and state constitutions, the aims of the founding fathers of Malaysia, and our Rukun Negara, is absolutely crucial. I wish all speakers and participants a very good conference, and I thank Saravana, his team, and the sponsors for kindly organizing this event. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ampun tuanku, dengan ini selesailah sudah ucapan paduka anak anda.
We request Mr. Saravana to invite and accompany Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan Darul Khusus to the stage to deliver the royal address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. In 1948, the states of Malaya decided to come together to form a new entity which was named Persekutuan Tanah Melayu, Federation of Malaya. On gaining independence in 1957, this entity adopted as its motto, Bersekutu Bertambah Mutu, unity is strength. Thus, the purpose was to forge one strong, united entity for a common destiny. However, the member states of this federation chose to retain their rights over certain matters. The Federation of Malaya Agreement 1948, the Federation of Malaya Agreement 1957, and subsequently the Federal Constitution specified the roles and rights of the Federation as well as those specific rights retained by the individual states. Items retained as a responsibility of the state include, among others, matters relating to land, water, natural resources, and administration of Islamic affairs. What I hope this conference will achieve is assessing how the objectives of federalism have been carried out in these last 60 years and the steps to be taken in moving forward. Though loyal to our federation, we must not end up with federal parochialism. We should also subscribe to the principle of subsidiarity, where localization of authority allows state governments to respond to local concerns more effectively. Thus, we need to explore whether there is a proper balance between the right of individual states to pursue their own objectives and national interests. And this relates to the determination of who or which body are the approving authorities. Also, we should explore the subject of fiscal decentralization as well as increasing the avenues of direct income for the states to be enabled to carry out their projects. I am very pleased to launch this conference, which I hope all participants and attendees will find beneficial and encourage civil society to give thought to the project. I congratulate the organizing committee chaired by Mr. S. Saravana Kumar of Lee Hishamuddin Allen and Gledhill. I note that this conference was made possible by the support of Lee Hishamuddin Allen and Gledhill, University Science Islam Malaysia as the host for this conference, and Nilai Resources Group. With the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I now declare open the conference Federalism in Malaysia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes.
Ampun Tuanku, beribu-ribu ampun. We request the Secretary of the Organizing Committee, Puan Nur Amira binti Ahmad Azhar, to invite Yang Amat Mulia Tunku Besar Sri Menanti to join Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku on the stage. Ampun Tuanku, we respectfully invite Tuanku to beat the gong for 5 times for a symbolic opening of the conference. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, University Science Islam Malaysia, Lee Hishamuddin Allen and Gledhill, and Nilai Resources Group for their generous support which made this conference possible. On behalf of the organizing committee, we humbly request Tuanku to present a certificate of appreciation to our sponsors. And please put your hands together as we welcome on stage Professor Dato Dr. Musa Ahmad, the Vice Chancellor of University Science Islam Malaysia. Dato Asnam Mansoor, partner of the law firm Lee Hishamuddin, Allen and Gladhill. And lastly, Dato Gan Eng Hong, Group Managing Director of Nilai Resources Group. Ampun Tuanku. On behalf of the moderators, speakers and panelists of the inaugural Federalism in Malaysia conference, we humbly request Tuanku and Tunku Besar to present a contribution of 5,000 ringgit to the National Kidney Foundation and the Rotary Club of Nilai Central towards the establishment of a dialysis center in Seremban. We invite Datin Shobana Kamalanathan from the National Kidney Foundation and Captain A. Muragasan, President of the Rotary Club of Nilai Central, to receive the mock check. Ampun Tuanku, we request Mr. Sarvana to accompany Tuanku and Tunku Besar to return to their seats. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this conference will feature 6 distinct sessions which will be held over the span of 2 days. For today, we will be covering 3 sessions titled The Concept of Federalism in Malaysia, Federalism, the Negeri Sembilan Experience, and Issues in Malaysian Federalism. We are very fortunate to have prominent personalities to partake in the discussions. The speakers will, among others, assess how the objectives of federalism have been achieved thus far and whether state governments have sufficient resources to respond to the local concerns more effectively. Before we begin with our first session, we will have a short refreshment break. We request Mr. Saravana to invite Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku and Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampuan Besar to Bilik Santapan Diraja. Announcing the departure of Duli Yang Maha Mulia Yang di-Pertuan Besar Negeri Sembilan Darul Khusus and Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tunku Ampuan Besar Negeri Sembilan Darul Khusus to Bilik Santapan Diraja.